I'm Draco Self Important, and I think you should listen to me. Today, you're going to listen to me talk about spirituality and religion and my history with that. This is my second take because the cat knocked down the camera 2 minutes into take one. Uh, Vash is very excited when I start talking, and he thinks I'm talking to him, and sometimes I'm not. So I don't know what to tell him. At any rate, um, I will be up front. Here comes Vash back. Please don't knock down the camera this time. Um, I am one of those douchey white dudes who has done mushrooms and now it's everybody else's problem. Uh, uh, we'll get to my experience with psychedelics later in this tale, but for now, we're gonna talk about the beginnings of Draco and his religious adventure. I love speaking of myself in the third person. Um, so, shortly after I was born, I was baptized Catholic. That was the extent of Catholicism, other than being raised with the Catholic guilt. Um, I was like dragged to some church services. Occasionally, like my grandparents would, I never went through confirmation, never like any kind of Sunday school classes, nothing. Didn't like it. Literally, my mother said I was baptized out of just in case. Like, well, isn't that fun? Um, so, like, from the beginning, religion is not something that is serious in my life, and it's something that I'm taught that is just what old people do, and you can blow it off. To be very clear, and I've said this before, I don't believe that Jesus Christ like actually existed. I think that it's a parable. They didn't write about the man contemporarily. There are no stories written in the time that he was alive about him. I mean, there was stuff written at the time, but not about. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not right. So I personally have not been presented with enough evidence that dude even existed, let alone that he was the son of God, let alone that God exists. So, just generally my introduction to religion was an unserious one. And my parents, as far as I know, not spiritual. When I was in like elementary school, my dad went through this brief period where like he wanted to teach me about Christianity, but still not like go to church. I think he felt guilty that like he didn't want to go to church and shit, but he still like believed it. Taught me about like the rapture, gave me some weird like it was a negative image of, the European white Jesus, right? And if you stared at it and then you would look elsewhere, close your eyes or whatever, you would see the image of Christ. Because, like, that's how your eyes work. If you stare at something long enough, it imprints, your brain goes, oh, that's what we're looking at. Like, right. But when you give that to a child, it's like, ooh, magic. And I had to have been in like second or third grade. Like, I remember taking the thing to school with me and like taking it to lunch and showing all my friends and like you sent me with Christian recruiting material to school when I didn't even know what the hell, like, what is happening. uh, so I got a real cursory like yay Jesus from my father, but like that was it. I remember when I was 16, I was spending the night with my paternal grandparents, and they were going to go to Saturday night mass because for some reason Catholics really dig going to church on Saturday nights instead of doing something fun. Um, and I showed up in, because this was pre transition, mind you, like a little halter dress situation. I was covered. The thing came up to my neck, but I was not wearing a bra. It was not see through, mind you. It just, the natural shape of my body was visible. And I was told that since I was not wearing a bra, that I couldn't go to church with them. And they left me while they went. And I'm like, ooh, all right. So the churches that both sides of my family went to were not at all welcoming, not a fun time. In fact, my parents didn't get married in the church because my dad was divorced. So, like, how they managed to, like, bribe some people to get me baptized, I do not know. Because technically, according to the Catholics, I was born out of wedlock. Because they got married in, my mother was wearing jeans and a Cheap Trick t shirt in front of the Justice of the Peace. Like, so, yeah. So I get baptized, right? And my mother says to me, throughout my childhood, like, if you want to go to church, you can. I'm like, okay, cool. But I didn't because it seemed boring as hell. So then I go out, into the world. At this point, I think, in junior high school. I meet one of 47 friends named Missy. Uh, it's probably the one name that I'm gonna like just flat out use because there are so many. Like everyone born in the 80s or late 70s, I guess. All name Alyssa. All of you. All of you. There's 4 gajillion. So 97 friends named Missy, spelled different, some of them, mind you. We won't be clarifying. But this particular one was uh, her family was in a church that like spoke in tongues and shit. Um, so this was my first exposure to anything evangelical. Um, And so, I spend the night. They're going to church. So I go to church with them in the morning. And there's like guitars and music. And it's like fun and shit. And so then she's like, oh, well, do you want to come to a youth group meeting with me? And so then I go to the youth group. And I'm like, this is kind of awesome, actually. Oh, wait, no, I'm conflating stories. Um, the when I was younger, I'm the going to the church thing. That was later, and that was a different Missy, and I'm getting them confused. Oh my god! No, seriously, so many Missies. And two of my like past history friends were involved in incredibly, like proselytizing, recruity type evangelical churches, and so my brain has confused them. No, no, no. The first one, I went to church with them, but like, this was the first time I was exposed to a family that like, she wasn't allowed to watch the Care Bears because it was magic and that's evil. Like, listen, if you don't want to let your kid watch the Care Bears because it's literally just an advertisement for toys, have at it. Like, cool. But the fact that they say that they use like love and friendship to help, and like that's the magic. The magic is love and friendship, man. It's not like we're not talking wizards and warlocks here, bro. We're talking love and friendship. Like, it's sort of like the My Little Pony thing. It's like friendship is magic, and like they're like mad about that, and it's like you don't want your kid to have friends? But that's the same deal. If you don't want your kid to watch that because it's a giant advertisement, I totally understand. However, I have a soft spot for both of those things as an 80s kid. Also, the new My Little Pony, the Friendship is Magic, the new, it's fucking like 20 years old now or something. Um, they put jokes in there for adults, and that makes me happy. And I love, like, it's like the Looney Tunes, man. Like, the Looney Tunes had so many goddamn jokes in them that when you watch it as a little kid, it just seems silly and it goes over your head. But when you watch it as an adult, you're like, that is a sexually explicit joke. And I like, um it's, I don't know, man, like, as long as the child isn't the object of the thing that goes over their head, because that I think is really uncomfortable. That's when you get into like Colleen Ballinger territory of like, I'm going to tell these sexually explicit jokes and use these children as props in sexually explicit jokes that they don't understand. And then later they're going to look at it and get it. It's one thing when you look at an episode of the Looney Tunes that you watched as a kid and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that joke. That's funny. But when you are part of the joke and then you see it, that is not funny. That is victimization. I digress. A lot, if you haven't figured that out yet. Um, so I remember being like interested. I think maybe I did go to a youth group with this church too. I don't know, man. I just, dude. But later, a few years later, I think I might have been a freshman, but in the school that I was in, that still put me in junior high school. The high school didn't start until sophomore year. Um, I don't think I was a sophomore yet. I think I was a freshman at this point. Another Missy. This one was like um, friends with like family. I don't know. She ended up marrying a family friend who I always liked, and yeah, so like that's chill. I'm a fan. As far as I know, like I haven't talked to either of them in literal decades, but as far as I know, they're chill people, so that's cool. Um, Far more chill than my family. Jesus. And all of this is information gleaned from when I was like on decent terms with my family. I don't know. They could be like have murdered each other by now for all I fucking know. The last I heard it was years ago because I haven't been on good terms with my family in ages, and at this point they don't exist. My mother is literally dead, and the rest of them might as well be. Because I'm real fucking over it. Like I have no room in my life for people who don't treat me like humans. Like, I'm a people. Hi. If you're going to invalidate my very existence, if you're going to misgender me on purpose, if, like, literally, man, my aunt misgendered me to the goddamn mortician after my mom died. Got my name right, but not my gender. You figure that out. Except that it was intentional. But that's not surprising. So, I go to this super evangelical church, another church with guitars and the drums and the singing and the like, white people rock. Uh, Also, the speaking in tongues. But at this point, I start going to youth group, and I want to like start just going to the church, like not just when I'm having sleepovers or whatever, but like just actually go. And my mother is like, no. I'm like, but you said I could go to church. And she's like, yeah, you can go to church with your grandmother. I'm not sending you to a cult. That's a cult. Um, I don't know necessarily that she was wrong there. Um, it felt a little gross at the moment because she was like, yeah, you can go to church. And then when I found a church that I liked, she was like, not that one. And it's like, are we Christian or not, man? Like, and if you're going to try to come in here and tell me that Catholicism is not Christianity, you can fuck right the hell off. Like, I'm sorry, bro. That's like where the rest of Christianity comes from. That's the original Christianity. Like, just historically, that's the birth of the church. Started with the Catholics and then shit split off and they started naming shit differently. But you can't be like Catholics aren't Christians. Like, it makes me bananas when people, well, then what the fuck are they? It's the same shit as trying to say Mormons aren't Christians. Are they bananas? Yes. Are they Christians? Yeah, they worship fucking Jesus Christ. Like, what the fuck else? Like, that's kind of the definition. There's a million different doctrines. The fucking Mormons believe Jesus was in the U.S. with the fucking My brother was raised among Mormons. He was his family, like his immediate family, was not practicing, but like his extended family had lots of practicing Mormons. Um, Utah, everyone there is related, bro. Unless you just moved there, you like yeah. Um, I say this because my darling brother, his longtime partner and mother of his three children, is a distant cousin. So, and he's like, literally, there was no one that wasn't. I like it was just trying to get as far away from like because everyone in the fucking town was related somehow, all of them. And I literally think the entire state of Utah is like that because the foundation of the state was I'm going to be one guy and I'm going to knock up 20 ladies as many times as I can so that my particular genetics are a part of half the fucking town. Like, yeah, when you take one guy's genetics and spread it through huge, yes, that's going, yep, You're just guaranteeing inbreeding at that point. Like when you have one dude who breeds with a bajillion people and then a bajillion, like there's no, like, all of the people are going to be related, man. Like that's just, you get two generations in and it's just math. So polygamy as like a principle for a whole society, not great. If you want to do it as an individual, because like that's what cool, people who do it as a religious calling, like that just seems weird to me, because you're like, hello, look at Utah, they're all related. Like, I have seen with my eyes the results of what happens with that shit, and I'm not going there on the internet. But like, when you know, we've all seen the royal family. We know what it looks like when, yeah. Um, it's funny because there are other places. I remember I had a friend in my early 20s whose girlfriend was from Massachusetts and was like Kennedy adjacent, one of those families. And so her grandparents were first cousins. And boy, was she schizophrenic. And boy, like, yeah, when you start folding the genes together, some shit's gonna somewhere, physically, mentally, something, like anything recessive, you're multiplying the chances of getting that recessive thing. It's not a good idea. You want to spread those genes around. It's why people who are race purists, you're trying to make your people dumber, because it would make more sense if you would like to have like a stronger family lineage to get some genes from elsewhere, so that you can, it's just yeah. Says the person who moved across the country and then accidentally, the other father of my two oldest, his family's also from Pennsylvania. Different area though. Um, his dad was born where the peeps are, in Bethlehem. I just think that's fun because I fucking love peeps, and I love that the Easter treat is from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, because it gives it that nice. Well, Jesus is from Bethlehem, and he. Uh, I like the lore, man. Like, legitimately, I wish that I could believe any of it, but like, I've tried to read that shit, and I have consumed a lot of content of other people with differing perspectives, both believers and non believers, talking about the content of the Bible, as well as a bajillion other religious texts. I've always been super into religion. Like, it's something that has always fascinated me, because, like, people believe it so fucking much, and like, it just does not compute. But I've always like wanted the community, right? Like that seems fun. I like having like-minded people in my life. Um, so I'm not allowed to go to this church. That fizzles out. I end up later in high school, uh, like connecting with another group of like super Christian kids. Um, like the two of the boys were brothers. I cannot remember where the fuck their family is from. They're of Middle Eastern descent. I think first, I can't remember if their grandparents or their parents. I think their grandparents were. I think it was, very similar to my life situation. Hi, hello, we're all from immigrants. If you're not fucking indigenous, that's just how it works. But like, it was kind of funny to us because it became known immediately that they were the only boys who were not circumcised. Like, as soon as like yeah, like, and then it became a thing where like they would be like, "Do you want to see it?" Like, I so desperately, like, it's just in my head. Their name, their last name, is like pl- pleasantly like alliterative on the back end, and I want to say it because it feels nice, but I'm not, because I don't want to put their name on the internet, because like I haven't talked to these dudes. I think One or both of them is on my Facebook. Um, but I remember hearing stories of people being like, "Yeah," and then I saw it and it looked really weird. And then, the funny thing about that is, as an adult, like once I got out into, because once I came to Washington, like it's like a coin flip whether or not a dude you're encountering is going to be circumcised. Like some are, some aren't. It's not like where I grew, like it was fucking everybody. Like that was just what you did. It didn't fucking, and so like to have these boys who were like, "Ooh," it was fucking crazy. Um, but um, they were like super super Christian, and they got some of my other friends into this church that they were going to. And then like I remember one time I there was a like Christian bookstore that had opened in the mall, and I snuck off from the coffee shop where I was supposed to be hanging out to go to the Christian bookstore. I lied and like betrayed my mother's trust to go buy shit with Jesus fish on it. It was the most asinine shit in the universe. Um, but yeah, it was just I always wanted that sense of community, right? I always wanted, like, I've desperately wanted to believe in something my entire existence, and I'm like, I don't know. God, I just spit on myself. So as an adult, so probably about 19ish, I discover the concept of pantheism, and that's the closest that I've ever been to like actually genuinely being like religious and spiritual at the same time. Pantheism, to really, really like boil it down to nothing, everything is God, God is everything. Um, Existence itself is worthy of worship and divinity. The way that I used to describe it when I was 19 was God is everything. God is you, God is me, God is the couch, God is the tree, God is like, if it exists, it is God, and it is worth. Um, and I think honestly that perspective leads you to treat people and things and, what have you, with like an amount of dignity and reverence that might make you treat it better, and ultimately like the result would be better consequences for everyone, like the world around us. Like if I thought of every fucking plastic fork as like part of divine existence, then maybe, I wouldn't be so like chill with just pitching them. I don't know. um but then I have also been the sort of person who, like, as a child, would like anthropomorphize my stuffed animals and give them personalities and shit, and then feel bad when I left them, and like, so I could go down a real dark hole there. Um, but I was a pantheist for quite a while. I genuinely, and I've been racking my brain, and I think it probably happened during some sort of other trauma, and so like it's just not. I don't remember when I became an atheist. Like I don't remember when it happened. Um, I feel like it was probably during my first marriage, and looking, like, I've got to wonder if he bullied me into it a little. Um, because like I've always believed, and I've always said there are energies, there are things in this universe that we do not understand, just like there have always been. How many times throughout history have people gone, "It's magic," and then some scientist goes, "Well, actually, it's germ theory," or like how many things that we thought people got sick because of your humors, and then somebody was like, "Actually, there are tiny little bugs that are like invading your body," and so like there are lots of things that were perfectly natural, perfectly normal, that for hundreds or thousands of years human beings attributed it to magic, spirituality, God, what have you. And then science comes along and we're like, oh. So, to be clear, I don't believe in the supernatural because I don't think that's how it works. I think that there are lots of natural things that we just don't understand yet because we don't understand everything about our entire existence. Like that we're not there yet. Maybe we never will be. I won't be here for us to be there for sure, but maybe humanity will get there at some point. But like there's lots of shit that we don't understand. It's why science is a field. It's why we're constantly, investigating fucking cures for cancer and obesity and don't get me started on fucking Ozempic. Uh, that may be a video that I do actually, because I have a whole lot of thoughts about like weight loss culture. Um, but I don't know. So like at some point I become an atheist. I decide that I don't believe in anything. I decide that there is no God, no nothing, no like it's just bleh. Um, and I think part of that is because I would like to be dead when I'm dead. I have been cripplingly depressed my entire existence and would really like to have a point where I just go to sleep and be done. I don't want an afterlife. I don't want a forever. I don't want to move on to another life. I would just like to go to sleep. And if there is no God and no afterlife, then that's exactly what happens. I just cease to be. And there's no evidence that that isn't what happens, right? Like, there's nothing measurable, provable, whatever. But, like, like, I had a ghost experience. Um, I genuinely think it was just I was half asleep and the, like, dream part of my brain hadn't quite shut off when I opened my eyes. So, like, I saw some shit that. But it was fucking 9/11. I had spent 3 hours on an hour and a half long bus ride because the plane went down in Somerset County and I was in Pittsburgh. And they didn't know what the fuck was going on. We thought at that point what we were being told was that the plane came from the Pittsburgh airport, which was like damn near visible from my campus. Like, I was like, oh, Jesus. So, like, we have no fucking clue what's going on. I, because I'm a genius, was watching Pinky and the Brain while getting ready to go to my work study office job before class. Um, and so I get on the fucking bus and I go the whole way into town because I live out in the fucking suburbs, which is why, like, I literally lived at the end of the bus route. Like, I was as far out as they would fucking go. Sometimes those buses would be full. It was, oh my God. I literally had to, like, just be in Pittsburgh again to get another bus because they would underestimate how many people lived out there. Oh my God. Anyway, um, yeah, so we're all like, so my brain is off in a million different places. So like, this is, yeah. Um, but at some point after finally getting home, um, it was before I was married, but I was with the first husband at this point, and we were just fucking exhausted, and so we're like, all right, let's take a nap. Um, had to put headphones in because anytime a plane flew over, I would panic because there were supposed to be like nothing, but there definitely were planes flying because there were planes coming over us to get to where they were investigating, one would assume, or to see, like, I don't know, but there definitely was shit in the sky. Um, and so take a nap, and as I'm waking up from the nap, I open my eyes, and at the foot of the bed is standing 8-ish-year-old little girl in like an 80s style plaid nightgown. And I like close my eyes and shake my head, and then she's gone when I open my eyes again. I was like, well, that's fucking spooky. Because, it's like, it's literally 9/11. A bunch of people just died. Like, I'm like, is this like the spirit of someone who's, I don't know, you know, yeah. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I immediately wrote it off, and I think that that was just, a waking dream, as it were. It's like when people have sleep paralysis. That little girl was my sleep paralysis demon, basically. Like, little girl from the 80s. Ah! So, it's I just anytime any I want to justify everything. I want to make everything fit into science, but also I genuinely believe that there's shit that we don't understand because there is. Like there are scientific discoveries happening all the time. So like why am I limiting these things? It's like people going, "Oh, do you believe in aliens?" Do I believe that they've come here? I don't know. I haven't really been presented with enough evidence to make me actually believe that. But like do I believe that aliens exist in general? Yeah, did you see how much universe is out there, man? Like, there gotta be something else that's alive. Does it necessarily look anything like this? I don't fucking know. But there has to be something out there? I don't know, man. We're gonna pause, and we're gonna pick back up in a second, because I'm about to run out of whatever, and I think I need a quick potty break. So I love you. Be safe. Make good choices. I'll be back in a minute.